Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? We have got another banging video for you all today because it has been specifically requested by you. We can't call ourselves a channel for the people if we're not actually taking requests, and that's what this video is for you all. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, I dropped this video, boop, right here, early round wide receivers. This is part 2 to that because you all wanted me to go even further with the ECR and the wide receivers available. So today's video, the next 9 wide receivers are up. Now, if you've missed the other videos, this whole series is kind of about where are these guys in the expert consensus rankings? Where would that put them in terms of average draft position? And would I draft them there? That's what we're going to be talking about in this episode today. So hit that like button for me and subscribe if you are new here because we are dropping some just fire content right now. Actually, let's use a hashtag we haven't used in a while. Hashtag hella fire content. But we've got 2 giveaways that I need to remind you all about. And the first one, oh man, it's a beautiful, full-size, authentic, on-field Adam Thielen helmet. This thing is absolutely amazing. All you've got to do to be in the entry or get an entry into this giveaway is head over to prizepicks.com or download the app, create a free account using code word headliners, and deposit $20. That's the most important part. A lot of you have created an account, but you forget to deposit the $20. So do all that, deposit $20, and you're going to not only get a free 2022 fantasy football draft guide from us, but you're going to be entered to win this Adam Thielen helmet. But let's say that you have bought your draft guide, or maybe Prize Picks isn't available for you, or you're not really interested in Prize Picks and you just want to get a draft guide. You see that yellow helmet there on the left-hand side? Both of these are coming from Jake's studio, by the way. That's an autographed Aaron Jones throwback helmet. If you buy your draft guide at thefantasyheadliners.com in the month of July, which is almost up, you are also going to be entered to win that helmet right there. So realistically, if you really wanted to be entered for both, you could do that. Now you're going to get 2 draft guides. Maybe give one to your wife or something like that. I don't know. But listen, nail it. Or husband, wife or husband, significant other, whatever. You can give one to them. But make sure that you do not miss out on the opportunity to get these helmets. Again, for the Adam Thielen helmet, got to go over to Prize Picks, create a free account, code word headliners, deposit $20. For the Aaron Jones helmet there on the left-hand side, all you got to do is you just got to buy a draft guide. You buy a draft guide, you are automatically entered to win them. So let's talk about wide receivers now. And we're going to be going over the next 9. We've already talked about really every wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. Now, the really nice thing about these wide receivers this season is that there are a lot of really, really good options going in rounds 3 and 4. And this video is going to have a lot of great options for you if you decided to go RB heavy to start your draft. And I think this video is only going to reinforce to you that if you do go RB heavy to start your draft, that you are going to have some great options in this kind of early to mid round area to draft wide receivers. At 3.02 is going to be Keenan the Boss Man Allen. This dude just, he's so good. He's so good. He doesn't get nearly enough credit. He's kind of like Mike Evans, in my opinion. He just doesn't get the amount of credit that I believe he deserves. Super consistent over the years. This guy is one of the best route runners in all of football. He's got one of the best quarterbacks in all of football and plenty of weapons around him to help keep the pressure off. T. Higgins at the 3.03. This guy isn't getting quite the hype that Jamar Chase is, but I really think he should be. I mean, if you take a look at the numbers last year, we're going to dive into it a little bit more, but T. Higgins was great last season. A.J. Brown at the 3.04. When we start talking about him a little bit more, I'm going to pop a video up on the screen where you can see one that I just did recently where I broke down A.J. Brown a little bit more for you and got more in depth in terms of what does the target share need to look like for him to be successful. Coming in at the 3.06, Michael Pittman Jr. A lot of guys really saying that he's a breakout this year, but for me, Michael Pittman Jr. already broke out. He's not really a breakout candidate, but he is a candidate to take his game to the next level. Now he's got Matt Ryan. What does that mean for him? DJ Moore. Unfortunately, DJ Moore's talent is just getting lost in the fold of having mediocre quarterbacks. I mean, really, he's like Allen Robinson, Diet Allen Robinson when it comes to that, okay? So is Baker Mayfield going to change things around for him this year? Does Sam Darnold actually step up and take a step forward and become the starter and beat Mayfield out? I don't know, but for me personally, I don't want to give up on this guy. He's too darn talented. There's just one reason why he's not really reaching those numbers. Deontay Johnson at the 3.12. For me, there's a lot of questions about that offense this year, and those all are going to really focus in on what does the quarterback position do for the wide receivers there. And we've got some updates coming out of training camp that we're going to talk about a little bit. Heading into the beginning of the fourth round, absolutely disgraceful that Jalen Waddle is going in the fourth round right now. This dude is coming off an excellent season, and now he's got help there to keep all of the focus on him. I get why people are overlooking him. I do understand it, but for me, we've got to buy into Jalen Waddle. Terry McLaurin at the 4.03. This is a guy that now he's moving on from Taylor Heinicke, and that was one thing that was an issue last year. All right, Heinicke being that quarterback, not really that guy to unlock the potential of Terry McLaurin. Can we get that back with Carson Wentz? A lot of people not really on Carson Wentz. I get it, but can he be the guy to help Terry McLaurin get back there? And Mike Williams at the 4.08. I like Mike Williams. I don't love how his role on this Chargers team changed last year. That's one thing we're going to have to keep a lookout on as the season kind of progresses for the Los Angeles Chargers. But we've got our wide receiver, our ECR, where they currently stand, kind of in that ADP area if they're drafted based on their expert consensus rankings, and whether or not I would need to have them or need to avoid them at that area. And first up, like we already mentioned, Keenan Allen at the 3.02. I mean, Keenan Allen, he's just so underappreciated by so many people within the fantasy community. It's either that you're a Keenan Allen truther and you want to have him every single year, or every single year you have an excuse as why you don't want to draft him. I mean, this is a guy that has over 1,000 receiving yards every single season since 2017, except for one in which he missed 3 games, but still had 992 receiving yards. So he would have broke it in that year as well. He's a lock for basically 100 receptions every single year. He's a lock for getting anywhere between 140 to 150, maybe 160-ish targets. He's going to get you those as well. He might not score the touchdowns that you would like to have out of a wide receiver one, but he is the epitome of a wide receiver that will never lose you a week. He's not a guy that has down weeks. He might not have those huge explosions of weeks, and he might be a guy that you would say to me, Kyle, I'd rather have him as my wide receiver too, and I get that, and I understand it, but I'm not going to pass on him here, especially if I went running back heavy to start. But if I didn't, and you're going wide receiver heavy to start, and you took like a Kupp or a Jefferson or a Chase, taking Keenan Allen as your wide receiver too is an absolute win every day of the week. At the 3.03, we're going to go with T. Higgins and also smash the draft button on him this year as well. Take a look at this guy's numbers and compare them to Ja'Marr Chase if you haven't already done so. Because if you do, you're going to see that if T. Higgins didn't miss 3 games last year, he probably has more targets and more receptions than Chase does. Chase would still have gotten him in yards. He still would have gotten him in touchdowns more than likely. But T. Higgins, the numbers would have been much closer. And Ja'Marr Chase is a guy that people want to have in the first round. And T. Higgins is falling into the 3rd. We know this offense is going to throw the ball exactly like Keenan Allen's offense is going to throw the ball, right? The first 2 guys up on here, great quarterbacks, great offenses. Offensive lines are a lot better. Tons of weapons around them to help keep them in single coverage. I mean, just look at it. Both of these guys right here, you look at them and you might not say to me, Kyle, I love these guys as my wide receiver ones, but they're going to probably see more than enough volume to help you out through the entire season. Now, the one thing I will say that differs between Allen and Higgins is a little bit is that Higgins is probably going to have a little bit more of a variance of outcomes. His ceiling is going to be higher than Keenan Allen, but I also believe his floor is going to be a little bit lower than Keenan Allen as well. well, because this is a team with Cincinnati that they're going to be able to run the football a little bit more often maybe than what Los Angeles will. The Chargers are in a division where you're probably going to have to throw constantly. For T. Higgins in Cincinnati, they have a little bit better of an opportunity to maybe run a little bit more. So maybe at like the end of games when we might be getting a little bit more Keenan Allen volume coming in, you might not necessarily see that from T. Higgins. And Ja'Marr Chase compared to Mike Williams is a little bit different as well, right? Ja'Marr Chase, alpha wide receiver on the outside, used a little bit differently than what Mike Williams is. That's going to give Ja'Marr Chase a little bit opportunity to have that ceiling over T. Higgins on a weekly basis as well, and might limit some of that ceiling that we see from him. At the 3.04, I'm avoiding A.J. Brown this year, and it's not because I don't like A.J. Brown. In fact, right below is a link, not a link, but the thumbnail for the video that I just did a couple of days ago, depending on when you're watching this video, that talked about A.J. Brown more in depth, and I broke down the math for you to try and help you understand why I believe that A.J. Brown this season, I don't love the variance. I don't love it. He does have a great shot to have a really, really good ceiling, but for that to happen, we have to have a lot of things come together. Jalen Hurts has to take another step. You have to see lost volume to not only one people, but several people in the Eagles offense, because this is a team that didn't even throw the ball 500 times last season. If you're looking for a 20 or 30% increase to get you towards 550, 600 passing attempts this season, that's a lot to ask for. So if you're looking at 500 passing attempts, Devonta Smith is going to have to lose targets. You're essentially going to take a lot of targets away that the running backs had last year. I broke it all down in the video for the thumbnail that you see right below you. Go check that out when you're done with this video. It's going to explain more about why A.J. Brown at the 3.04, I'm worried. Now, if he were to fall further, I mean, heck, if you could tell me that I could get A.J. Brown in the 4th as my wide receiver 2, I would be good for that. I would be good for that. If you've already drafted a wide receiver and you really want to take A.J. Brown as your wide receiver 2, I understand that as well, but I would rather take somebody like a T. Higgins as my wide receiver 2 that's going to have a little bit more upside potentially being in a really, really good pass-heavy offense. Michael Pittman Jr. coming at the 3.06. As I mentioned before, this is a guy that a lot of people are saying is their breakout this year, but I'm sorry, Michael Pittman already broke out. Now, if you're saying he's going to take a step forward, that's fine. I get that. I would be all right with that terminology, but he's not a breakout candidate. The dude went for over 1,000 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns last year. Now with Matt Ryan at the helm, it will be interesting to see how we can get Pittman loaded up towards that maybe 1,200 yard area, 100 receptions, and double-digit touchdowns. Now, the one thing that we've seen over the years with Matt Ryan and his number one target, Julio Jones, is that he will put up a ton of volume, but the double-digit touchdowns become an issue because he doesn't quite get targeted in the red zone that we would like. Hopefully that changes with Michael Pittman this season, but if it doesn't, that's why he's an okay grab in this area or a good grab in this area, because Julio Jones, you were paying first-round capital for. Michael Pittman, if we can get 100 receptions, 1,200 yards, and he still only scores about 6 touchdowns, we took him in the 3rd round. The draft day value is a lot better right there than if we were getting 1,500 yards and only 5 or 6 touchdowns from Julio Jones, who we had to take in the 1st round if we wanted him in years past. So for Michael Pittman, I love the opportunity this year as the wide receiver 1. My only hope would have been is that they would have added more of a legit wide receiver 2 on the other side to help him out to kind of take some of that pressure off, because the receiving weapons around Michael Pittman are questionable right now. At the 3.09, DJ Moore. Now, nobody can argue that DJ Moore is or isn't talented. If you're arguing that you're not drafting DJ Moore because he's not talented enough, I'm sorry. You've already lost the argument. It's over and it's done with. If you want to argue that you don't love DJ Moore because of the situation, I can buy into that a little bit more. I can understand that. The one thing that we saw a little bit of a different change from 2020 to 2021 with DJ Moore is that we saw some of the big playability disappear, but we saw the volume go up. I mean, we went from 118 targets to 163. We went from 66 receptions to 93. Now, the yards per reception dropped from 18.1 to 12.4. So that is a little concerning for me. I would love to see us get back closer to that 15 range, but it's always been been the touchdowns. DJ Moore has lacked the touchdowns. 4 touchdowns in 3 straight years now. Is Baker Mayfield going to be the guy to unlock the touchdown potential? I don't know about that. But in the 3rd round, drafting a guy that could be locked in for 140 some odd targets. No, let's take some targets away, knowing that, let's just say that Christian McCaffrey's healthy all year. If he's healthy all year, yeah, we're going to bring down those targets a little bit more. But again, back in 2020, he had 118 targets. So I still think we come up a little bit from that. So I think we split the difference, see 130 to 140. If we can get back to that 15.5 yards per reception, now we got a guy that if he can score more towards 6 to 8 touchdowns, we've got a guy that, again, probably won't lose you many weeks. He may not win you a ton of weeks. He might not have the ceiling as, let's say, a T. Higgins, or I would even say A.J. Brown as the wide receiver one. Probably has a little bit higher ceiling than DJ Moore, but DJ Moore to me is going to be safer because we know for a fact that volume is probably going to be there for him on a weekly basis. Diontae Johnson at the 3.12. At one point in time, I was okay with it, but there's been some rumors out of training camp that yesterday came to fruition a little bit, and that is the fact that Chase Claypool is working out of the slot more this season. Do you all understand the mismatch that Chase Claypool will be over the middle of the field and in the slot? There is not a nickel corner in this league that stacks up against Chase Claypool's height and athletic ability and is in just going pure, winning the fight at the football out of the slot. I really like the opportunity for Chase Claypool to potentially unseat Diontae Johnson if he's in the slot all year. That's an if, asterisk next to that. To unseat Diontae Johnson kind of is that number one target. Michael Pickens on the outside. Pickens he is overlooked by so many people. He's a very talented player, overlooked kind of due to some injury concerns. He's on the field and healthy. He's going to be on the outside on the other direction. But the big question for me is it Mitchell Trubisky or is it Kenny Pickett? And do we trust either of these guys to get consistent targets to Diontae Johnson, Pickens, Claypool, Najee Harris, the Muth, whatever it may be? That's my concern, and one of the reasons why I just have to be out on Diontae Johnson, because honestly, I would take Jalen Waddle over him. There's 2 guys that I would take over Diontae Johnson right now. Jalen Waddle at the beginning of the 4th is one of them. And Jalen Waddle, I love this season. Absolutely love him. Now, do we see maybe some of the volume from him that we saw last year? No, the 140 targets could end up coming down a little bit. But that doesn't mean that doesn't put him in a position for right around the same area of catches. I mean, this is a guy that caught almost 75% of his targets last season. Even if we bring down the targets to, let's say, 120, just to accommodate Tyreek Hill, 115 maybe even. This is still a guy that should catch 90 of those easy, and his yards per reception last year that were 9.8, having Tyreek Hill there now should accelerate at a very, very good pace. Meaning that now Jalen Waddle, if you take and even lower the targets and the receptions a little bit, but move him closer to maybe 12, 13, 14 yards per reception, he is still going to be a guy that goes well over 1,000 receiving yards and replicates the 6 touchdowns from last season. If you don't believe in Tua, I get it, but just believe in him. Believe in him, ladies and gentlemen. This is a guy, and I've been beat up for this take before. If Tua would have been fully healthy his final season at Alabama, he would have still been picked by the Bengals at number 1 overall over Joe Burrow. I believe that. I believe that would have happened because he was the quarterback 1 for the 2 years even before that. He was one of the highest rated prospects in all of high school the year that he signed. That was a guy that was absolutely looked at as being a first overall pick talent until he got hurt and he had issues. When all of that went down, then Tua dropped, obviously, was still drafted high, and it gave Joe Burrow the opportunity to jump up to number 1 overall. But you got to believe in Tua yet, because we haven't seen anything that is devastating to his performance moving forward. At the 4.03, am I taking Terry McLaurin? Yes, I am. I will believe in Carson Wentz to get Terry McLaurin the football this season. Maybe not the high upside wide receiver one that we think Terry McLaurin could be. I could get why you would be apprehensive about that. And I'm a little bit as well. But back-to-back years of 1,000 receiving yards, missed 2 games in his rookie year. If he hadn't missed those 2 games, he goes over 1,000 receiving yards then as well. And he's got 1,000 receiving yards in 3 straight seasons to begin his career. The one thing that's a little concerning is last year his catch percentage dropped to 59.2%. But some of that had to do with the targets being of poor quality. So we probably see that jump up a little bit closer to the 65% that we saw in 2020. If we can get him right around those 130 targets again, he catches more of them, gives him another 10 receptions, puts him well over 1,000 receiving yards. And honestly, if you don't think Carson Wentz is an upgrade from Heineke, then again, we have another conversation that we need to have outside this video and you watching tape, because yes, Carson Wentz is an upgrade over Heineke. So those numbers that we saw last year in 17 games, 130 targets, 77 receptions, just over 1,000 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns, those should easily be replicated with an opportunity for more ceiling this year. And then at the 4.08, Mike Williams, I'm also willing to go with him at that area as well, because let's face it, that is an offense that is going to absolutely eat. The one thing, again, that I have to just say that I'm concerned about is how are the Chargers going to use him this year? To begin 2021 last season, Mike Williams was used in a more of a position that related to Keenan Allen, where the entire route tree was utilized. He was running slants, he was running those fades, he was running crossing routes, he was doing some wheel routes. I mean, he was doing everything that you needed to do to expand the route tree. And you saw him begin last season as a top 10 wide receiver. I mean, this is a guy I think that went as high as wide receiver 3 at one point in half PPR leagues. So for me, taking a look at Mike Williams, if they utilize him like that again, because of how pass heavy this offense is going to be, I'm fine with all of that. I am absolutely fine with him and Keenan Allen surviving together. Now, kind of the same thing with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I don't want both of them. I'll invest in just one of them this season. But for Mike Williams, if they utilize him more like that this season and they don't make him just stretch the field on the outside, you've got yourself a potential league winner coming in the 4th round, because Mike Williams absolutely thrived in that role last season, and I hope they really try to utilize him a little bit more in that role this year. But ladies and gentlemen, there is a breakdown of the next 9 wide receivers in this just loaded group, kind of in this area in the early to mid round. So if you're wanting me to do more and you want me to now do a mid-round wide receiver video, let me know down in the comments below. Absolutely, you got to hit that like button for me. Again, share this video with your friends. Maybe you've got some friends that you're not in leagues with. Send this video over to them and say, hey, these guys are the bee's knees. Follow them. Give them some loving over there in the comments. Again, let me know down in the comments below if you want another video similar to this, going into the 5th round, 5th and 6th round of wide receivers now. And then, of course, let me know, out of these wide receivers, who do you want most on your team this season? Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to get out of here. Don't forget to enter into our giveaways for the Aaron Jones and Adam Thielen full-sized helmets. I appreciate all of you tuning into this video today. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will catch you all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.
Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. Y'all stuck on 3rd down. Your content's plain Jane. Headliners on top now. We gonna move and change. Podcast off the rip. Draft guide, so legit. Fantasy world, our game tight. You know we about that Chubb life. Stuck in a rut and you need some motivation. Head to the channel for this Headliner Nation. I'm a headliner.